I will be talking about I Am Dynamite, A Life of Nietzsche by Sue Prideaux. So, I am going to talk about this in parts because I realize that it takes a long time for me to go through some of the information, especially when I'm going through reviewing a book. And this one I will have a lot of information to go through, so I'm cutting it up into parts. So I'll be talking about the first part now. So page 10, I'm eating a salad. So I had it heaped up, and I guess I'm still quite hungry, so I was going to pick and eat but I can't talk to you while I'm eating, so this will have to wait. Anyway, page 10. Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche was born on October 15th, 1844. Named after the reigning king of Prussia, he was the eldest. A sister was born 2 years later, July 10th, 1846, and then a brother 2 years later, February. His father was a pastor with nervous disorders. He'd shut himself away in his study for hours. He was given to mysterious attacks when his speech would abruptly cease mid-sentence, and he would stare into space. His wife, Franziska, would shake him awake. When he woke, he was oblivious to the interruption in his consciousness. The symptoms worsened until he had to be excused of his parish duties. He had agonizing headaches and fits of vomiting. His eyesight deteriorated to semi-blindness. He took to his bed at age 35, and his life effectively ceased. Carl Ludwig's suffering grew worse. He lost the power of speech, and he died at age 35, July 30th, 1849. Page 12. Nietzsche himself suffered from symptoms similar to his father's before he suddenly and dramatically went mad in 1888 when he was 44 years old, remaining insane until his death in 1900. No post-mortem was performed on Nietzsche. Dr. Paul Julius Mobius, a neurologist, revealed a tendency to mental problems on the maternal side of the family. On his paternal side, his grandmother's siblings were described as mentally abnormal. 32. Nietzsche's thoughts inspired by Emerson, the great Greek philosopher-poet Empedocles, and the German philosopher-poet Friedrich Hölderlin. 33. Nietzsche's teachers suspected that he was dangerously pessimistic and completely antithetical. James would have to help me with that one. 2. Forda's 3 guiding principles of Wissenschaft, Bildung, and Lutheranism. Those sacred principles ought to have provided adequate defense against any young Forda student such as Nietzsche's being attracted to the soul-shaking, God-forsaken, internal territory that Hölderlin explores. And this is a quote from Hölderlin. "Oh, you wretches, you feel all this, who, even as I, cannot allow yourselves to speak of men's being here for a purpose, who, even as I, are so utterly in the clutch of the nothing that governs us, so profoundly aware that we are born for nothing, that we love a nothing, believe in nothing, work ourselves to death for nothing, only that little by little we may pass over into nothing. How can I help it if your knees collapse when you think of it seriously? Many a time have I, too, sunk into these bottomless thoughts and cried out, 'Why do you lay the axe to my root, pitiless spirit?' And still I am here." That's a good quote. Nietzsche wrote that Hölderlin's grave of long madness, throughout which the poet's mind wrestled with the advancing night of insanity, before finally expiring in the dark, mysterious funeral songs, ate into his own consciousness like the wave beat of a troubled sea. His writing on Hölderlin reads hintingly, as though he might already be almost half in love with the idea of surrendering his mind if the consequence was the opening of the doors of revelation. So this was around 492 to 432 BC. Empedocles, that's when he was alive, I guess, ended his life by jumping, but this is a legend. I don't know if this person really existed. James has a lot of theories on legends and stuff. He'd be better to talk about this, and he may, because we're both going through this book, so we'll see what he has to say. He ended his life by jumping into Mount Etna in the sure and certain expectation of emerging as a god. 36. At Forta, they were treating Nietzsche's chronic illness, his blinding headaches, separating ears? I don't know what was going on with his ears. Stomach, catarrh, vomiting and nausea with humiliating remedies. He was put to bed in a darkened room with leeches fastened to his earlobes to suck blood from his head. Remember in Legion, the movie we were watching, series, how the sister, when she was abducted, really, and held, as bait for David, they had leeches on her, remember? Sometimes they were also applied to his neck. He hated the treatment. He felt it did him no good at all. Between 1859 and 1864, there are 20 entries in the sickness register, lasting on average a week. He was wearing smoked glasses to shield his sensitive eyes from the pain of light. Now, these used to be tinted because I used to get terrible migraines, and I would be throwing up because the pain was so bad it would make me throw up if I moved. If my eyes moved even a little bit, I would just start vomiting, and it was horrible. I didn't know what to do about it. I spent a lot of the time in the basement in the dark, with wet cold towels wrapped around my head and my neck. I don't know, but eventually it did end. So I got tinted glasses thinking, well, this will help, because I would tell people, I feel like the sun's killing me, so I get it, but I don't know what was wrong with him. For me, I had a tumor taken out, and all of a sudden I didn't have the migraines anymore. I wasn't vomiting. I don't know if it was related, but it stopped, and it hasn't come back yet. So I'm hoping that's what it was, but I don't know. The doctor that I have now, she doesn't think it was related, but James thinks it was, and so do I. 39. Nietzsche's comment on Forta. I lived a secret cult of certain arts. I rescued my private inclinations and endeavors from the uniform law. I tried to break the rigidity of schedules and timetables laid down by rules by indulging an overexcited passion for universal knowledge and enjoyment. What I wanted was some counterweight to my changeable and restless inclinations, a science which could be pursued with cool impartiality, with cold logic, with regular work, without its results touching me at all deeply. How well taught, but how badly educated such a student from a princely foundation is. Page 40. He joined Burschenschaft, a student fraternity which was later associated with the Hitler Youth. They didn't do much more than go for mountain hikes, sing songs, fight duels, and drink beer. He joined Franconia fraternity, or Frasonia, I don't know, expecting learned discussions and parliamentary debate, but found himself raising his tankard and roaring out fraternity drinking songs. 51. The most irksome thing of all is that I am always having to impersonate someone. The teacher, the philologist, the human being. What a good quote, hey? 81. Throughout the first critical week in Erlangen, Nietzsche was in danger of dying. He was treated with silver nitrate, opium, and tannic acid enemas. The treatment ruined the patient's intestines for life. So, there you go. That's the first part.